Welcome to AEW Weekly. This is WrestleWolf. I am Dr. Damian Gibson, and joining me is the man who only deals in Kayfabe. It's Kayfabe Matt.
Hello, how are you going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Got to watch some Dynamite. It's been a little while since we've recorded because things have been crazy for both of us. Probably a bit more crazy for you, to be honest. It's nice to actually sit down and talk about some wrestling.
Yeah, well, I watched wrestling for the first time with my 7-year-old this morning, and so I'm going to include some of her insights into this as we go along.
I think that I'm quite interested to hear that from the actual target demographic of a wrestling show. You know?
Well, that's what she argued with me, because she's like, wrestling's not really for kids, Dad. And I'm like, well, actually, it's really should be exclusively just for kids.
Initially.
And she's like, well... And then about halfway through the first match, she goes, you know, this doesn't even really look real. like, shut up. It is. It still hurts.
I know. It's still it like as much as we both paint ourselves as, you know, smarks. When someone's like, it's not even real. You're like, shut up, man. You don't know.
I definitely become it's still real to me, man.
I find myself saying sentences like, it's choreographed. Like I turn into, you know, like one of the old dudes that Conrad interviews each week, you know, where it's like, it's choreographed, and you know, you fall off a 20-foot ladder onto concrete. You know, it's not ballet. Like I turned into Jim Ross. All right, this is big. This is a big episode of Dynamite, man. It's the first anniversary of the show. Have we been? We haven't been doing this the whole time. We have been talking to each other the whole time, but across two different podcasts.
Yes, we've been exclusively talking to each other for the length of Dynamite over separate podcasts.
Yeah, that's true. We started off like in the ring with the Best Friends and FTR ready to go for their tag team bout. I noticed that both teams and the majority of the people on the episode tonight had new ring gear. So they were sort of treating it like a pay-per-view. You can always tell that the boys and girls have gone out and when they've got new gear, you can tell it's a special occasion. And it's always a sort of thing where I'm like, this might be really good, because if they're spending extra cash on ring stuff, then maybe they're going to go the
that
extra
must
mile.
mean it's... Yep.
Throughout this match, I mean, this was a good match as far as I'm concerned. FTR did this. They keep doing this move. It's like a sliding sort of roadblock where they'll run past their opponent who's about to try and make a tag, and they'll sort of slide into, like, almost like they're sliding into home base like a baseballer, and stop the tag from happening. It's only something that I've noticed the last few weeks. It's really cool, but it also fits in so perfectly with FTR's, you know, we're a proper tag team, aesthetic sort of thing.
I thought this match was really good. I thought the Best Friends are, you know, really an AEW team, and, you know, they've been there since the start, and they've really developed over that year into sort of one of the best teams, one of the most interesting teams. You know, I think you would definitely put, or I would definitely put, I'm not going to speak for you. You have your own microphone and you also edit the podcast, so I don't want to get into that habit. But they, you know, I think one of the most enjoyable matches on Nitro was the parking lot brawl. On Nitro,
I was going to leave
on Dynamite.
I was going to leave
it. Was the parking lot brawl with Proud and Powerful, and like I just think that they're so charismatic and so much fun. I deeply enjoy them, and FTR are, I guess, the example of a WWE team that didn't get the support that they needed and were sort of treated like jokes, and are now, showing what they can actually really, really do, which is almost one of the sort of secondary mission statements of Dynamite and AEW. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a really perfect way to kick off this show.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have planned, if you were FTR, you couldn't have got out of WWE at a better time when you look at what's happening with I mean, Vince, for some reason, since the Attitude Era, has not really paid any mind to tag team wrestling at all. Even though, some of my best memories of WWF when I was a kid was the tag team division. The Hart Foundation, the Rockers, Arn and Tully were there for a bit, the Killer Bees. But yeah,
the Oddities, the Headbangers. This is because my youth was slightly later than yours, so mine is real Attitude Era. And when you actually think back, because I used to love as a 9-year-old boy, I was really into the adult muscly men who pointed at their dicks a lot. And I thought the New Age Outlaws were incredible, but tag team wrestling actually really sucked during the Attitude Era. The APA weren't actually they were the Acolytes during that point. They were not there yet. The APA was good, but the Acolytes were not particularly good. And then there were the Oddities, the Headbangers. There was the Road Warriors, and that was very, very grim.
Yeah.
And then there was the New Age Outlaws, who, in hindsight, probably history could do without them.
Yeah, you had it got to the point a year or so later where there were 3 tag teams that wrestled each other for 4 years in Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudley Boys.
Which is good.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense if you don't have any other tag teams, just have the 3 of the best of all time to wrestle each other all the time. Yeah, there wasn't too much to point out from this match. I think Trent and Chuck both got periods of time to show that they're good, that they're not just guys who hold hands and hug each other and, Excalibur says, you got to give the people what they want. It's not, they're not just a catchphrase and Orange Cassidy's buddies. And I know that they had that opportunity in the car lot match and all that sort of thing, but I just like that's, that everybody gets an opportunity to show their wares in these kind of matches. FTR wins, which we all thought was going to happen. And then Miro, sort of as this match continued on, Miro and Kip Sabian were still playing their weird little arcade game, which we found out today obviously had no screen or anything in it, or any game that they were playing of any real consequence because it got smashed to pieces, which Kip was very upset about. And Miro came down and beat up the Best Friends because of it, setting up a feud between Miro and Kip Sabian and the Best Friends, which I know we'll both be really happy about, that Kip Sabian and Miro get to keep working together.
I did enjoy Miro referring to the Best Friends as the good friends, saying, you break my shit.
Yeah, we got to see a little bit more of natural Miro in this episode, which is good. And that'll just happen more and more as he gets more and more comfortable. That led into the next match, which was Miro and Kip Sabian versus Lee Johnson and Sean Maluda. This was a squash match, really, to show how big and strong Miro is. And then that's where we got the good friends call from Miro. Then we cut to the locker room where the Murder Hawk was beating down Mox. We'd get this a couple of times throughout the episode. At this stage, what are you thinking about the main event? Are you looking forward to it? Are you into it? Or
I can't say I'm super into it, but really that's actually Lance Archer's fault, not Mox's.
Yeah.
I'm oh, look, this is a cool build. This is objectively a cool build, but I hope this isn't going to go for 40 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll go into it in more detail when we get to the match, but yeah, I was kind of the same where it's yep. It just sort of it was, you just sort of, as a viewer, felt like you were kind of going through the motions a little bit when these two were on screen. Next up, we got MGF. Who the hell is that? MJF. He comes out essentially says that he's better than you because that's what MJF does. And then he brings out Chris Jericho. The Inner Circle are all wearing MJF's jacket that he gifted them a couple of episodes ago, except for Sammy, who is holding a jacket. MJF pleads for him to put the jacket on, and it's about 100 sizes too big, trying to make Sammy look ridiculous again. And then we get some fantastic back and forth between MJF and Chris Jericho about how good MJF says how good Chris Jericho's body looks, how much he likes his hair. Then Chris Jericho's like, "Do you want to touch the hair?" MJF's like, "Yeah, I want to kind of touch the hair a little bit." MJF touches Chris's hair, and then Chris is like, "Cut the shit." A lot of swearing, a lot of swears on this episode. I mean, 2, but
there was a lot of that's a lot of swears
for a wrestling show, yeah. And then MJF finally gets to the point and says that he wants to join the Inner Circle and does some great sort of weird, like, nervous boy asking a girl to the school social type stuff here. Jericho says he'll have to run it past the Circle because the Inner Circle don't seem very happy about MJF joining. But next week that they'll have a match for a steak dinner.
Well, I don't think they're having a match. I think they're just having a steak dinner.
I misinterpreted that. I thought they were having a match and the bet was a steak dinner.
No, it's like, I want to meet you next week.
Oh, for a steak dinner, I completely missed the joke. I'm sorry. My head's a little all over the place at the moment.
I'm hoping this is the catalyst for a Chris Jericho face turn, not a... Because it probably... If you're Chris Jericho and you change character every year... you've hit a year now. It's time for something new. He's got it in him to do something absolutely different. MJF shouldn't be a face.
No.
Like, if it's just going to be them working together, like, that's okay for a while. But it would be much more fun to have them against each other for a little while. And I think that Jericho would see a lot of value in MJF and have a lot of fun with him.
Yeah. I mean, as much as we're enjoying this is like on-the-job training, right? And we're all watching it. Like this.
Yeah.
This is Chris Jericho teaching MJF to be the best possible MJF he can be, but also making really captivating weekly episodic television out of it. And we bang on about Jericho every week about how great he is and how unselfish he is. And this is... I mean, everyone would want to work with MJF, I'm sure, in AEW. I'm sure the majority of WWE would want to work with MJF as well. But, Jericho can pick and choose. And, again, I mean, he also could, as we've had with plenty of other older sort of greats in the past, could completely bury MJF and see him as a threat, but doesn't. Does the complete opposite of that. Which just always makes me happy, It's just another sort of string to AEW's bow where it's like, God, it gets a little bit over the top when you listen to Unrestricted and everyone talks about how much they love each other, but it does sort of feel like they do, and they're actually working for each other and the greater good of the organization, especially when you see stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You excited, man? Because the next promo is Britt Baker.
It was good. It was great. It was bizarre. I liked it.
Do you want to take us through what
well,
happened?
it opens with Britt and Tony getting facials and massages, and then Britt Baker gets Reba to bring out her sort of A3 piece of paper with that sort of made her. I am currently wearing my Dr. Britt Baker t-shirt.
It's actually super cool.
It is because everything to do with Britt Baker is super cool. Then she gets the sort of face mask off and turns around and sees that Tony's shirtless, and she starts freaking out about how disgusting he is, and then demands to wax his chest, which she does, and seems deeply unpleasant for Tony, who also seems to be enjoying it just a little bit. Then Tony and her are getting, I think, pedicures, and she continues to bully him while talking about how it's time for her to come and take over the division again. She's, even when she's been injured and incapable of working, she's still been the face of the division. It's great. She's, I assume, going to win the women's championship at full gear, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, so this promo was to announce that she'll be back in action next week, and that could have just been an infographic, but this is much better. This is
so much better.
This is kind of what we've been calling out for, and she's been injured, so it's sort of it's unfair to be like, well, she should still be cutting promos and stuff, which she did, but I mean, everyone loves her so much, you just want to see as much of her as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tony Schiavone's Schiavone does great work in these promos and doesn't do it all the time, and I feel like he should be. Like I know they've got Dasha and God, I always forget his name. Alex
Marvez.
And they can't rely on Tony to do everything, and he's also on commentary and stuff, but you could quite easily have JR and Excalibur on commentary and have Tony doing all the other stuff. Just a little comment. Now, the next match is Cody, the TNT champion, versus Orange Cassidy. I'd be interested to see what you think of this, because I feel like my opinion is going to be a little sour.
Well, so Lily, my daughter, she really got into Orange Cassidy, which is interesting because she's never watched wrestling before, and I sort of thought that gimmick was something you had to sort of have watched wrestling before to enjoy. I really liked it. I thought this was a great match. I really liked that Cassidy essentially won it, and then they used the time limit, because if you use the time limit sometimes, it shows that it actually matters. It's not just a thing. It's obviously choreographed, as we mentioned earlier, but I think it's a very good way to keep Orange Cassidy looking excellent and keep that title on Cody, which, I think is the better outcome. I don't think Orange Cassidy as TNT champion right now does anything particularly for Orange Cassidy. So I think I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Now, shit on it.
No, so my problem is that for the second time in 3 or 4 weeks, Orange Cassidy has been used to big up a match, big up his opponent, and has lost. Even though, I know that we can point to the time limit being a factor here, and so it...
Well, he did win, essentially. He had the moral victory, but not the... It's a disqualification sort of victory almost.
Yeah.
He won without winning. Cody wasn't getting up for the 3.
No, he wasn't. But I just... yeah. I mean, I know it opens the door to have an ongoing feud and stuff. It's probably testament to the fact that I am engaged in these guys so much, especially Cassidy, that I wanted him to win like a 12-year-old boy, and couldn't objectively at the end of it go, oh well, that was good, and that was good storytelling. I was like, fuck, Orange Cassidy should have won, man. Yeah, I just sort of, because so Darby Allin's doing his best Sting impersonation, sitting up high up in the rafters, watching all of this go on.
And I will say once again, my daughter was like, who's that guy? That guy seems cool.
Oh, okay.
What's he going on? And she was really into... And then when he popped up on the little graphic saying he was going to be... She's like, he looks cool. He looks different.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is interesting.
It's probably because he's not skating around like Poochie for once,
Yes, exactly.
He's not, he just, when he's not trying super hard, it's interesting that that was the week that, Lily saw that and then was like, oh, he looks cool, I don't know. Look, maybe I'm being harsh. There was a part of me that was a little disappointed with the outcome of this match. I know that it can carry on. I just think at some point you need to, they talk about it in the commentary and stuff. They talk about how over Orange Cassidy is and how much everyone loves him. It's like, okay, well, you can't just keep no matter how you book it and how many interesting ways you book it, and I appreciate that. I mean, like, that is a really interesting way to book the match and stuff. You, at some point, have to pull the trigger on him. Like, I know I beat Jericho, but he hasn't won anything since. And so I'm just wary that they think of him as like an upper mid-card guy when I did, like, genuinely think he could be a top of the card guy. I think maybe they're a little nervous.
Oh,
about
yeah,
his
absolutely.
gimmick.
Well, I think they might be waiting for full crowds to come back. And like he does look little. And it's not like Cody's this massive guy, but he looks physically underwhelming.
Yeah, but
when he like locks up with Cody.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, yeah. I mean, ultimately, yeah. I just ultimately, like, I think he's probably the most exciting thing in the company. So it kind of, you don't want to lose that momentum. Do you know what I mean? You want to pull the trigger at the right time to give him that push, so he gets the belt at the right time, not in like, you know what I mean? Like, not in 12 months' time where they're like, oh, hey, look, we gave Orange Cassidy the belt, and everyone's like, yeah, we kind of want it.
Well, I know you disagree with me on this, but I'm really hoping that in the next few months they do like a King of Trios tournament, because you've got the Best Friends in Orange Cassidy, you've got Death Triangle, Penta L0M, and Ray Fenix and Park. You've got Butcher and Blade and Eddie Kingston that you could put together. You've got the Nightmare Family so they can lose straight away. You've got the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. You've got some version of the Elite. You've got the Dark Order. You've got and John Silver now is more over than Brody Lee. Like, John Silver is so good.
Well, we forgot to mention that Dark Order came out during this match and sort of got involved, but got ejected from the ringside area pretty quickly.
And did so in the most, comical, amusing... I don't know why, in about 1 minute of airtime every Dynamite, John Silver is so far over for me. I just think he's so hilarious.
No, he's great. He's great. Yeah. I mean, we kind of spoke about that on the last episode of, it's probably time for them to be their own thing without Brody Lee. But I suppose they kind of had... they had to attach someone to the Dark Order to sort of legitimize it. So it makes sense, but it's probably time to jettison Brody Lee from that. Speaking of time to jettison things, Matt Hardy is back, and Sammy reveals that he is the one that beat up Matt. Shock horror. And it cuts back to Matt, who can't even get the words to his promo out properly. Maybe I'm being over the top. Maybe I'm being a little grumpy towards stuff today, but I don't know, man. It just doesn't look great to me. Because they constantly... The other thing is, AEW keep referencing it. Tony goes to interview Matt and it's like, oh, how are you feeling? He's like, yeah, I feel great. And then Sammy cuts this... It cuts to a promo that Sammy has cut where he's setting photos of Matt Hardy on fire. And then it cuts back to him. He may have tripped up because he was nervous, but it's hard not to associate the bump that he took and all of the palaver that went around with that. And each time he's been on camera, he hasn't seemed 100%. That could be 25 years of wrestling as well. I acknowledge that, but I also I think it's probably a bit of the fact that I don't care about this feud. Are you into it?
I don't even want to talk about it. I just think it's boring. To be honest, this was the part that I was like, oh God, yeah. Can we not let Matt Hardy talk as Matt Hardy? Ever?
Yeah, that's the other weird thing as well. The choice to be like, oh, I'm going to be the most boring of all of my creations over the last 25 years. It's strange. It's strange. The whole thing, I just sort of feel like there's a really dirty taste in everyone's mouths about this angle. So let's just cut it and run. Let both of these guys do something else and we can all move on. Next up, we had like a little promo to determine which 4 tag teams would go into a 4-way number 1 contender match next week. And we ended up with... I haven't written them down. We ended up with the Young Bucks, Lucha Bros. Is that right?
Yep.
The Butcher and the Blade. It's us, Butcher and the Blade. And... Private Party.
Private Party.
Which...
I wonder who's going to win this one.
Yeah. So Young Bucks were the 4th team to get announced out of the barrel. They come down and say they're not here to super kick Tony Schiavone. They're here to super kick you. And then they turn around and point at all the other tag teams. And then we get a good old-fashioned WCW Monday Night Nitro brawl.
Enjoyed it. This is fine, in my opinion. This is cool.
Yeah. I noticed that Matt Jackson is now starting to get the Pat Rafter Samurai ponytail happening, which just makes him look a little bit more like a dick. Each week, there's something new that makes him dickish. What I noticed, and as 2 bearded men, I'm sure both of us take offense at this, that a beard is still counted as like a device for a heel. Like they mentioned it for FTR in the first match. You know, now that Matt Jackson's a bad guy, he's got a beard. You know, like
that's true. That's why I've got a beard, because I'm the bad guy.
Duh. Next up, we had Sheeta versus Swole for the women's championship. This match was fine. Me personally, maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't have the attention span that I should to be watching wrestling at the moment. But I felt like it's time for Sheeta to not have the belt anymore. I was just assuming that Swole was going to win this, take the belt, and then go up against Britt Baker, and that they would continue their feud. And it's not particularly... I just want to put it on the record. It's not particularly anything that I don't like about Sheeta. I really like her as a wrestler. But they haven't given us anything as a character. Like, who is she? Like, what is she as a character? Besides the fact that she's a fighting champion and good in the ring. That's it. That's all we know about her. So it's pretty hard to stay engaged with her, I think.
And I think I actually quite enjoyed this match, because I think that Sheeta was quite aggressive in a way that she isn't always, and I thought it was really enjoyable to watch. But I am pending any kind of rating for this match based on if Britt Baker comes back and at Full Gear is just an underhanded, dirty heel and beats Sheeta in a really gross way, and because Swole just lost to her in a respectful manner. And then, Swole comes out and is like, I'm in it. I'm coming for you. Like, that's a lot of fun, I think.
That's true. Yeah.
If Swole can be Stone Cold Steve Austin, which really, essentially, that's what her character,
true.
It was last time when she's just desperately trying to get to, Vince McMahon, who somehow is Britt Baker.
Well, that makes sense.
Like, I'm more than happy for there to be a more physical version of that feud happen again. The PWI 500 women ranking came out this week, and the top 5 were all WWE. I think that AEW, with Swole and with Britt, have the opportunity to have 2 women on that in that top 5 at the end of this year, at the end of the whatever the 12-month period is, and they should be aiming for that, because it's not good enough to not have a woman in the top 5.
Yeah, I agree with that. I probably didn't think that through. I was like, I really want Swole to win that match.
But that's the thing. If Full Gear's announced and it's a rematch between Swole and Sheeta, and Britt Baker's in some other whatever match, then that's not really great. But it is based on my fantasy booking. I will give this a pass.
Fair enough.
You're on notice, TK.
Yeah, man, we know you listen. Next up, we have Mox versus Archer for the AEW Men's Championship. We've got Eddie Kingston and Lucha Brothers on commentary. Well, Eddie Kingston on commentary and Lucha Brothers just hanging out. It's nice to hear Eddie Kingston put JR back in his box a couple of times, even if it was from a kayfabe point of view.
He's so good. I love Eddie Kingston so much.
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't already over with me, he definitely is now. We're on team fuck bad boy. Hashtag fuck the bad boy. Not fuck the bad boy. You know what I mean. This match was probably what I was expecting it to be. It was like some hard-hitting...
when I saw that there was 19 minutes left of the show when it started, I was like, you've made the right decision, AEW.
In the sense of like...
Not letting this just be a really, really long match that...
Oh, right, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of spoken about this previously with Lance Archer. I know he comes with big raps from Japan. He's a big dude. He can do things in the ring. He's not a bad wrestler or anything. There's just something for me personally that is failing to engage with him as a character. I don't hate it. I don't hate him. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. But I think maybe he was put back in the belt picture maybe a bit too quickly. They did try really hard to build him up, with all the promos and stuff that we did enjoy early on. But I just think there's a few missteps with Jake the Snake exists as his manager or partner or whatever, and he isn't getting a lot of time to put the Murderhawk over. So I don't know. That would be my piece of advice. That's what I would like to see moving forward. Is either Jake goes away completely, or he is 100% the Murderhawks manager. I get the idea of like, oh, even Jake the Snake can't control this man. He's so crazy, but we haven't really seen that as far as I'm concerned. Mox wins, and I think we all kind of knew that was going to happen, which also sort of deflated the match a bit. It was still fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
But then afterwards, Eddie Kingston comes down, is being, that sort of Joe Pesci from Goodfellas kind of friend. It's like, oh, we're friends.
I love
friends.
it so much.
We've known each other a long time. I'm just here to celebrate. And then kaboosh, smacks him in the face.
It's some real in the Sopranos. It's Sal and Carmela sitting. Sorry, not Carmela. And whoever Christopher's wife, Adriana, sitting in the car as Adriana knows that Sal's gonna whack her, but they're still under the pretense that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Then they choke Mox out, and then we fade off from being on air with Kingston going, I didn't tap out. So I'm that was some good news for. I mean, not that there was bad news throughout this episode, but there was some good news for me. I'm like, Kingston. Both of us have spoken about how we'd like to see more of Kingston and Moxley. We're getting it.
Yep, I think it's going to be sick. Like, I don't know if it makes sense for AEW as a business to have Eddie Kingston as champion, but it would be something different if they're going to transition to someone real quick. Having Eddie Kingston as just this sort of heel factory Bobby Heenan who can also wrestle and just chuck him the championship for a month is a lot of fun because he is just on fire.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, that was, I sort of had that thought throughout this whole match and the promo afterwards of like, wow, I mean, what a meteoric rise to the top of a company for someone who, in NWA was mid-card, was a lower mid-card guy, and showed that kind of...
Who had to pawn his boots to make rent. Like, that was his, and coming in story. And it's cool. It's so cool.
Yeah. And he's taking, I mean, it's just one of those wrestling is one of those weird things where people can get an opportunity sort of out of nowhere if people are willing to give it to them. And it's always fun to see people take that opportunity, like Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, now Eddie Kingston. That's always sort of the most enjoyable part of wrestling, I think, is when someone that you didn't expect gets an opportunity and they just explode, as a character. I mean, Stone Cold is probably the best and biggest example of that. Or even The Rock, maybe. Although it was probably a bit more of a slow burn with The Rock. But yeah, so that's a year of Dynamite, man. I don't know whether we want to go into that or just leave it where it is, or...
I think we just leave it where it is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of
it's been good doing this podcast, but we'll obviously be wrapping it up now, as we're only ever going to do it for the first year.
We would be able to, even if that was true, we wouldn't be able to help ourselves. It would last like 2 weeks, and then something would happen, and we'd be back. Oh my god, I can't believe Barbar's on the show. Or Adam Cole's on, man. I'm still putting that out there just in case it happens. Cool. All right. Well, we can wrap that up there. Thank you for all of your support, guys, and for subscribing and listening. People actually messaging us through Facebook and stuff now, which is cool. Still weird that even anyone listens to this. But if you're enjoying it, tell some friends, rate and review on the Apple Store. It helps with the algorithms. And until next week, Pepe's dead.